10 cars that outlive their owners to have. Built like tanks. Built strong.
Imagine a car so tough, it outlived its owner. Hard to believe? Some of these classics are still running strong, decades later. Why did they last so long, when today's cars barely survive 10 years? Today, we're counting down 10 machines built like tanks, cars that crossed deserts, racked up millions of miles, and refused to die. And somewhere in this video, I'll reveal a secret so shocking, most people have never seen or heard it before. So stick around till the end, because our number one car still holds a world record that will blow your mind. And if you love keeping these legends alive, hit subscribe and join the Regal Rides family. Together, we'll make sure these stories are never forgotten. Number 10, 1965 Volvo 122 S. Imagine this. It's 1965, gas is cheap, music is loud, and American roads are full of giant V8-powered monsters. But then comes this humble little Swedish car, the Volvo 122S, also known as the Amazon. It didn't look flashy. No big tail fins, no chrome overkill, just a simple, solid little car with one mission: to keep you alive and running for decades. The Volvo 122S became famous for one thing: it refused to die. While other cars from the 60s would rust away in a few winters, the Amazon kept going year after year. Its body was made with heavy-gauge steel, way stronger than what most companies used back then. The engine was the legendary B18, an inline-four so tough that some are still running today with over 500,000 miles on the clock. This was one of the first cars to offer three-point seatbelts as standard equipment, at a time when seatbelts weren't even required in many countries. Volvo basically forced the world to take safety seriously. For a lot of older drivers, this car was their first taste of what we now call safe motoring. What's wild is that you can still find these cars on the road, being daily driven by collectors and enthusiasts. They've become the poster child of over-engineering. Some people joke that the Amazon isn't just a car, it's an apocalypse survival tool. If the world ended tomorrow, there'd still be a Volvo 122S out there quietly chugging along. So why is the Volvo 122S at number 10? Because it set the tone for what a forever car should be: safe, reliable, and simple enough to fix with basic tools. It was never the fastest, never the flashiest, but if you needed to get somewhere, even 50 years later, chances are this car would still get you there. Number 9, 1980, Mercedes-Benz W123. If you've ever driven through a small American town or even parts of Africa, chances are you've seen one of these still running strong. The Mercedes-Benz W123. Launched in 1976, this mid-size sedan wasn't just a car, it was a global workhorse. Farmers drove them, diplomats drove them, even taxi drivers put 500,000 miles on them without breaking a sweat. What made the W123 special was its absolute obsession with durability. Mercedes engineers in the late 70s weren't building cars to compete with anyone. They were building cars to last as long as humanly possible. The doors closed with that famous Mercedes thud. The suspension was soft yet unbreakable, and the engines, were built like industrial equipment. The most legendary of them all was the 240D diesel. It was slow, painfully slow, but it would literally run forever if you just kept oil in it. People tell stories of W123 crossing 1,000,000 miles with nothing more than routine maintenance. Even the interior was overbuilt, real wood trim, metal switches, and upholstery that didn't tear after years of abuse. It wasn't a car that aged quickly, it just grew more distinguished with time. And let's not forget, this was the era before computers took over everything. The 123 didn't need fancy sensors or complex electronics to run. If something broke, it could usually be fixed with a wrench, a hammer, and some patience. That's why it became the favorite of taxi drivers in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. They knew it would just keep going, no matter the roads and the weather. So why is it number 9? Because it wasn't just built to survive, it was built to outlast its owners. Many W123s are still daily driven today, proving that Mercedes of that era cared about quality above all else. This car taught the world what German engineering really meant, and for that, it deserves a spot on our list. Number 8. 1970s Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40. Few vehicles earn the word legend, but the Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40 wears it proudly. Built from the early 1960s to 1984, the FJ40 was Toyota's answer to the Jeep CJ and Land Rover Defender, a tough-as-nails off-roader that could take you to the ends of the earth and bring you back again. The FJ40's design was simple: a boxy steel body, solid axles, a reliable straight-six engine, and a frame that seemed carved from granite. This wasn't a vehicle for cruising down a smooth highway with the top down. It was for farmers, soldiers, explorers, and anyone who needed to reach a place where the road ended. What made the FJ40 so special was its combination of reliability and ruggedness. Jeep owners were used to constant repairs, and British Land Rovers were notorious for leaks. But the Toyota just worked. You could drive it through rivers, across deserts, and up mountains without worrying about breaking down. In fact, many of these trucks are still in service in remote parts of the world, used as ambulances, utility vehicles, or simply daily drivers decades after they rolled off the assembly line. The interior was bare bones: vinyl seats, metal dashboard, no unnecessary electronics, but that was part of its charm. It was built to be hosed out after a muddy trail ride. Even the doors and roof could be removed, turning it into the ultimate open-air adventure vehicle. Collectors today pay top dollar for clean FJ40s, not just because they're rare, but because they represent a time when cars were built with a single purpose: to last. If the world ever ended tomorrow, you'd want an FJ40 sitting in your garage. Number 7. 1955 to 1957. Chevrolet Bel Air. Few cars scream American classic louder than the Tri-5 Chevrolet Bel Air. Built between 1955 and 1957, these cars weren't just a way to get around. They were rolling symbols of post-war confidence. Gas was cheap, highways were opening up, and America was dreaming big. And if you wanted a car that showed you'd made it, you drove a Bel Air. The 1955 model kicked off a revolution. It introduced the small-block Chevy V8, an engine so legendary that it became the heart of hot rodding for decades. Suddenly, everyday families could have real V8 power under the hood, and that changed everything. The Bel Air wasn't just transportation, it was a ticket to freedom. Design-wise, the Tri-5s were stunning. Chrome everywhere, clean lines, and those unforgettable tail fins on the 57 model that pointed toward the space age. Teenagers cruised them to drive-ins. Young couples drove them on Route 66, and hot rodders turned them into drag strip weapons. They became part of American culture almost overnight. But here's why the Bel Air earns a spot on our list. It wasn't just flashy, it was tough. These cars were built simply and solidly, which is why thousands of them are still on the road today, nearly 70 years later. The chassis could take abuse, the engines were easy to rebuild, and the aftermarket support is so massive that you can literally build a brand new one from scratch using reproduction parts. Today, a pristine '57 Bel Air, with its chrome gleaming under the sun, is a car show superstar. But it's also proof that when you build a car right, it lasts forever. Whether bone stock or turned into a fire-breathing hot rod, the Tri-5 Chevy is living history on four wheels. Number 6. 1966 Ford Bronco. Before it became a modern-day superstar with its big 2020 comeback, the Ford Bronco was born in 1966 as a no-nonsense off-road machine. Ford saw the growing popularity of the Jeep CJ and the International Harvester Scout and decided to build something that could do it all: work on the farm during the week and hit the trails on the weekend. The first-gen Bronco was brilliantly simple. It had a rugged ladder frame, solid axles at both ends, and a short wheelbase that made it surprisingly agile off-road. Under the hood, you could get a tough 170 cubic inch straight-six or later a V8 if you wanted more power. Nothing about it was overcomplicated. No computers, no fancy electronics, just mechanical reliability you could trust in the middle of nowhere. Owners loved that they could beat on these Broncos year after year, and they would just keep running. Ranchers used them as workhorses. Hunters used them to get deep into the woods, and off-road racers even modified them to dominate events like the Baja 1000. That kind of versatility is rare in any vehicle, let alone one built nearly 60 years ago. Inside, the Bronco was as bare bones as they come. Metal dash, simple gauges, vinyl seats you could wipe clean after a muddy trip. But that was the point. This was a tool, not a luxury car. It was built to survive, and that's exactly why so many early Broncos are still alive today. In fact, these original Broncos are some of the most sought-after classics on the market right now. Restored examples sell for eye-watering prices, but many are still being driven daily. The combination of tough construction, easy-to-fix mechanics, and timeless style means the first-generation Bronco hasn't just survived, it's thrived. Number 5. 1970. Dodge Charger RT. If there's a muscle car that can stop you in your tracks, it's the 1970 Dodge Charger RT. This car didn't just look powerful, it was powerful. With its wide stance, hidden headlights, and curvy Coke bottle lines, the Charger was the kind of car that made you turn your head when it rumbled past. Under the hood, Dodge offered serious firepower. The standard 440 Magnum 5.8 made a thunderous 375 horsepower, and for those who wanted bragging rights, there was the 426 HEMI, a street-legal race engine that could turn this big coupe into a quarter-mile monster. Even today, the sound of a Hemi Charger firing up can make any gearhead's heart skip a beat. But the Charger wasn't just a straight-line car. It had a solid chassis, good suspension, and was surprisingly comfortable for a muscle car. Families could use it during the week and then take it to the drag strip on Saturday night. That dual personality made it a favorite among enthusiasts. Pop culture also played a huge role in making the Charger a legend. It became a TV star as the bright orange General Lee in The Dukes of Hazzard and a Hollywood villain car in movies like Bullitt and Fast and Furious. Every crash scene made us cringe because these cars are too beautiful to destroy. What makes the 1970 Charger RT stand out as a car that lasts forever is that many of them survived being driven hard, raced, and even wrecked, and yet they keep coming back. Collectors restore them, hot rodders rebuild them, and new generations fall in love with them all over again. Today, a clean Charger RT can fetch six figures, but its real value is in the way it still captures imaginations. Nearly 55 years later, the Charger remains one of the purest expressions of muscle car attitude, bold, loud, and built to last. Number 4. 1963 to 1967. Corvette Stingray C2. Few cars in history combine beauty, performance, and staying power like the 1963 to 1967 Corvette Stingray. This second-generation Corvette completely redefined what an American sports car could be. When it debuted in '63, the split-window coupe stopped everyone in their tracks. It looked like something out of a space-age dream. But the Stingray wasn't just about looks. Underneath that fiberglass body was serious engineering. It was the first Corvette to get independent rear suspension, which meant it could actually corner with European sports cars, not just go fast in a straight line. And under the hood, buyers had their pick of small block or big block V8 engines that delivered anywhere from quick to absolutely wild performance. This was a car you could daily drive during the week, then take to the track on the weekend. It was reliable enough to start every morning and yet exotic enough to make you feel like a race car driver every time you slid behind the wheel. And because of its fiberglass body, these cars resisted rust, which means many of them survived decades of use and abuse better than their steel-bodied competitors. Collectors adore the Stingray because it represents the perfect balance of style and substance. The '63 split-window coupe is one of the most iconic and collectible American cars ever built. But every year of the C2 generation has its fans. Whether it's a 327-powered roadster or a thundering 427 big block coupe, the Stingray is a timeless machine. And perhaps most importantly, they're still driven today. At car shows, you'll see these Corvettes not just parked, but pulling in under their own power, ready to cruise. That's the sign of a car that was built not just to be admired, but to last. Number 3. 1987. Buick GNX. The 1987 Buick GNX was the ultimate sleeper car, a blacked-out Buick Regal that looked like a mild-mannered luxury coupe, but could smoke a Ferrari in the quarter mile. Buick only built 547 of them, making the GNX one of the rarest muscle cars of the 1980s, and one of the most feared. Under the hood sat a turbocharged and intercooled 3.8-liter V6 built with input from McLaren. Officially, it was rated at 276 horsepower, but everyone knew Buick was sandbagging those numbers. Real output was closer to 300 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, which was enough to make the GNX the quickest production car in America that year. What made the GNX special wasn't just the speed, though, it was the way it delivered it. The car launched like a rocket, thanks to its sophisticated suspension and limited-slip rear differential. Yet it was comfortable enough to drive every day. It had power windows, air conditioning, plush seats, all the stuff you'd expect from a Buick, but when the boost hit, it was pure chaos. The GNX was also surprisingly durable. These cars were overbuilt for the power they made, which is why so many survive today in excellent condition. In fact, a huge number of GNXXS were bought as instant collectibles and parked with low miles, but even the ones that were driven hard are still running strong thanks to their robust engines and transmissions. Today, the GNX is a six-figure collector car, but its legacy is more than just value. It proved that Buick, a brand known for making quiet luxury cars for retirees, could build a street legend that earned respect from muscle car fans everywhere. It's a car that not only lasted physically, but left a mark on car culture that still hasn't faded. Number 2. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z/28. If there's one muscle car that captures the soul of late 60s performance, it's the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z/28. This wasn't just another straight-line muscle car. It was born to carve corners and dominate road racing. Built to meet SCCA Trans Am racing regulations, the Z/28 came with a high-revving 302 cubic inch V8 that officially made 290 horsepower, but in reality, it was much closer to 350. This little screamer loved to live above 5,000 RPM, and it turned every highway on-ramp into your own personal racetrack. The Z/28 was special because it wasn't about brute force, it was about balance. Chevy paired the engine with a close-ratio 4-speed manual transmission and a suspension tuned for handling. It could stop, turn, and accelerate like few American cars of its time. For enthusiasts, this was a machine that rewarded skill behind the wheel, not just a heavy right foot. And then there's the styling. The '69 Camaro is arguably one of the best-looking muscle cars ever built. Aggressive stance, long hood, short deck, and just enough chrome to make it pop. Add the Z/28 stripes and cowl induction hood, and you had a car that looked as fast as it felt. Many Z28s were driven hard, raced in amateur events, and used as daily drivers, yet so many survive today. That's thanks to their tough, small block engines and durable drivetrains, which could handle years of abuse and still keep running. Collectors today pay top dollar for original Z28s, but you'll still see them at local car shows, roaring down the road, proving they weren't just built for the showroom. They were built to last. The Z/28 represents a golden era of American performance, one that still inspires Chevy enthusiasts more than 50 years later. Number 1. 1964 and a half Ford Mustang. When the 1964 and a half Ford Mustang hit showroom floors, it didn't just launch a car, it launched a movement. This was the car that created the entire pony car segment, giving Americans an affordable, sporty, stylish ride that could be anything you wanted it to be. The Mustang's genius was in its versatility. You could order a simple 6-cylinder coupe for commuting, or go wild with a V8-powered fastback and turn every drive into a mini road race. It was lightweight, reliable, and easy to work on, which meant anyone with a set of wrenches could keep one running for decades. And they did. Ford sold over 400,000 Mustangs in the first year alone, and more than 1 million within 2 years. That massive popularity meant there was a huge supply of parts, making them easy to maintain even 50-plus years later. For many families, the Mustang wasn't just a car, it was a member of the family. It was the car teenagers learned to drive in, the one dad tuned up in the garage on weekends, the one mum drove to work every day, and the Mustang was built to take it. The engines, whether a simple inline-6 or a roaring 289 V8, were rock solid. The body was tough, the suspension simple and serviceable, and the car as a whole could handle decades of use. Even today, you will see early Mustangs driving to car shows under their own power, still cruising after half a century. Collectors love the first-generation Mustangs because they represent freedom, style, and longevity all in one. They are proof that a car can be affordable, iconic, and built to last forever. And that's why it takes the top spot on this list. Because the Mustang isn't just a classic car, it's an American legend. And there we have it. 10 cars that prove greatness never fades. From the space-age curves of the '63 Corvette Stingray to the raw power of the Buick GNX, from the corner-carving precision of the Z/28 Camaro to the Mustang that started a revolution. Every car on this list was built to last, not just in steel and rubber, but in spirit. These machines weren't just transportation, they were freedom on four wheels. They survived gas crises, changing fads, and decades of wear because people loved them enough to keep them alive. They've been restored, raced, cherished, and passed down from generation to generation. And even now, when the world is talking about EVs and self-driving cars, you can still hear the rumble of a small block V8 on a quiet Saturday morning, reminding us that some legends never die. So which one of these old but strong classics would you take for a drive if you had the chance? Would it be the turbocharged menace of the GNX, the corner-carving Camaro Z/28, or the Mustang that started it all? Tell me in the comments. I love hearing which of these icons still makes your heart race. If you enjoyed this journey through time, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Regal Rides, and ring the bell so you never miss another deep dive into automotive history. We've got more stories, more legends, and more forgotten heroes to bring back to life, and you won't want to miss a single one. Because here at Regal Rides, the road never ends, and neither does the passion for the cars that made us fall in love with driving in the first place.